It's great to be here with you back in Elizabeth. I thank the Madam Administrator for hosting us on behalf of the Mayor, who would have loved to have been here, but I understand the challenges that mayors have, having been one myself, so I appreciate it. But we have three distinguished members of the Elizabeth City Council, and I'd like to ask them to stand up and take a bow. Thank you all for joining us today. Councilman Walden, Perkins Augusti, Councilman Grover, thank you all. And we are also joined by someone who's very important because he still has to cast a vote for what we want to talk about today, and he will get that chance later this week. But that is our incredible congressman who's going to retire at the end of this year, but is doing fantastic work and writing the final glorious chapters of his time in Congress, Congressman Albio Series. Thank you, Congressman, very much. And we appreciate our state senator, Joe Cryan, is with us. Thank you, Senator Cryan. And Mayor Turner of Elizabeth, who works with Congressman Series, thank you for being here as well, Mayor. Did they stamp your visa? Did they let you into Elizabeth? I want to thank the director of the center, and most importantly to all of you for allowing us to come and visit with you today. Thank you so much. We're here because sometimes we use the word historic, and sometimes that word is overused. But the bill that we passed in the Senate on Sunday and that the congressman is going to vote on this week, will then be sent to the president for his signature, is historic. And I will explain to you why. It's a game changer. It has critical investments in our nation, our state, and in our communities. As the name suggests, the Inflation Reduction Act, it will help reduce inflation, which is squeezing so many hardworking families in our state and in our country. But beyond this critical help, the law is the most significant federal action in history to bring down the cost of prescription drugs and to deal with the challenges of climate change in our country. That's why we're here, and that's why we're so proud to share with you what this means for our state. Now, the benefits of this law are revealed in the numbers. More than 1.6 million seniors on Medicare, and that includes me. I have well past the magic threshold. In New Jersey, we'll see, really, don't laugh too hard, Congressman, you're not too far off. So it's all good. It's all good that we can be in our golden years and still working hard. More than 1.6 million seniors on Medicare in New Jersey will see relief at the pharmacy and their doctor's offices due to lower drug prices. And thanks to a provision that I authored and led on and is included in the law, no senior on Medicare will ever have to pay more than maximum. And now I've talked to seniors who have had thousands and thousands of dollars in prescription drug costs. That will be capped now, totally, at $2,000 per year out-of-pocket medical expenses. Totally. And to the extent that they do have to pay, I'm proud that my smoothing provision will give them flexibility to help pay the expenses over a period of time. So instead of getting hit with it all at once, to the extent that there's that cap, and you still have to pay something, you can pay it over a period of time. And something Senator Booker and I worked so hard on, for diabetic patients on Medicare, the price of insulin will be capped at $35 a month. It's well over $100 a month for insulin. It will be capped permanently at $35 a month. Imagine that, $35 a month instead of hundreds of dollars you're spending now. And on top of all of this, that we focus on seniors, more than 250,000 residents in New Jersey will continue to afford care through an extension of the Affordable Care Tax Credits. You know, when we passed the American Recovery Act, we extended and enhanced the tax credits for people who buy health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. Well, that saved the average New Jersey family $6,500 a year, and now that has been made for the next 3 years a continuing extension. It was supposed to expire. That will continue for the next 3 years, that they'll save that $6,500 per year on average. And then there's a few other things here. We make the most significant investment in climate and energy spending, where we seek to bring down emissions by 40% by 2030. That's only 8 years away from now. 40% by 2030. That means we all get to breathe cleaner air. We all get to begin to deal with the challenges of climate change that are creating these heat waves and creating challenges for people with respiratory illnesses to breathe. It means that we will work towards stopping those northeasters that are coming, the flooding in Kentucky, the wildfires in the West. That's all a result of climate change. And so we will actually do something about, as seniors, bequeathing to the next generation of New Jerseyans and Americans a planet that they can ultimately enjoy. And then if you're in the possibility for a new car, but you've been holding back because you really would like to buy an electric vehicle so you don't have to depend on gas anymore, this law extends and expands the current tax credit for $7,500 for a new electric vehicle. You have to buy a car, and you buy an electric one, you get up to $7,500 for that electric vehicle. That's a big down payment on buying a new car. It also ensures that we have $30 billion nationwide in production tax credits to accelerate U.S. manufacturing of solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, critical materials that creates a domestic clean energy economy. And so our friends in labor, because we put provisions in here to make sure that men and women who work in organized labor are going to be able to advantage themselves of these jobs, new jobs that create clean energy at the end of the day. It's also going to have $9 billion in consumer home energy rebates that will be available to extend energy efficiency tax credits that can help someone in their home make it more energy efficient, so in the winter there's less energy costs to spend heating, and in the summer there's less energy costs to cool your home. And the other thing it does, and as I stand here and see the port area here, which so many of our residents in Elizabeth and Newark and other parts live in, it has $3 billion in environmental justice block grants, $3 billion in neighborhood access and equity grants, $3 billion to reduce air pollution at our ports, among other things. That means we finally can breathe cleaner air instead of having all the trucks pollute. And the last thing, it's not the last thing, the last thing I'll mention, $20 billion to support climate-smart agricultural practices. Well, right next door in Newark, there's this great company called AeroFarms, and they actually make some of the greatest fruits and vegetables, and they do it indoors vertically. Instead of using land, they actually do great fruits and vegetables vertically, indoors. That type of company can prosper and grow. So these are just all provisions how we in New Jersey, of course in America, but we in New Jersey will benefit from this law. But it's going to make a difference, particularly for seniors. You know, my mother came to this country in search of freedom. She was a seamstress in the factories of Hudson County. She worked long hours, often pricking her fingers. And in the twilight of her life, she faced a terrible disease with Alzheimer's. And she would not have lived with the dignity that she deserved without Medicare and her Social Security check. But the cost of prescription drugs for her was enormous. And my sister and I had to help her. And we proudly did, so Mom could live with the dignity in the twilight of her life. But now, because of this law, no senior has to choose between putting food on the table, keeping their home, and having access to life-saving, enhancing drugs. And that's what a great nation does. We help those live with dignity in the twilight of their life. So I can tell you, as someone who's worked in the halls of Congress at the end of this year for 30 years, there are moments that you really remember in the work that you do. This is one of those moments. So many of its provisions, beyond the drug pricing and health care savings, have long been Democratic priorities that we've been trying to get. You know, cleaner air, lower costs for New Jersey families, a brighter future for our children and grandchildren. It's an enormous victory for our planet as well. And so I just want to say this was not easy. We had a lot of torturous twists and turns. Senator Booker and I spent nearly 24 hours, what some of us when we were younger would call an all-nighter, although in those days it was a lot more fun than what we did this time. But we had nearly 14 hours of Republican amendments. And I say that because, you know, they were 99% of all the amendments offered were Republican amendments to do what? To stop all the things I just talked about. To stop the prescription drug lower cost. To stop the investments in energy. To stop, as a matter of fact, Democrats had in the law, not only if you were under Medicare that there'd be an insulin cap, but if you're not in Medicare and you're a diabetic and have insulin costs, we were looking to cap it in the private insurance market too. Unfortunately, Republicans went to the parliamentarian, the person who basically decides balls and strikes and rules what's in and out, and knocked that provision out. Otherwise, everybody in our country, whether they're on Medicare or not, would have had that limited cap. That shows you the difference between who's standing with you and who's fighting for you at the end of the day. So I will say that we're proud of this moment. We are proud to be able, when we say we are fighting for you in Washington, the proof is in the pudding, and this is the proof. With that, let me introduce my colleague, a tremendous champion that made so many of these provisions possible, Senator Cory Booker.